like a big thing. I'm gonna strap you in. I'm gonna go. We're alive, Rob Browne. Welcome to Monday,
It
March
is a
Madness.
hey man.
It's
What a
over.
yesterday.
Go Gators.
The last 4 days, man. Some really good basketball. And we're talking in the pregame. It's obvious the tension mounts in the tournament. Everybody.
Why? Because you're just gonna be. And it's all Florida's. Florida's got it taking this thing home.
Well, I mean, you've got
So
7
good.
of the 16. It's never happened before.
That was a good win. Okay, say it was ugly. It was a great win.
Look, you're beating the back-to-back defending national champion, Danny Hurley, in the Fighting Huskies of UConn. And I think he's one of the more likable, affable guys out there in sports. I mean, what a nice guy Danny Hurley is. He is
Super. Don't let them F you up, buddy.
Hey, I that part, yeah, he doesn't like to lose, but man, what a win!
Like a sweetheart there.
Yeah, and I tell you,
Lovely guy.
Creighton and McDermott, as in his 15th year coaching there, that was a tough out for Auburn. Ole Miss, though, that's the one you talk about dismantling a really good program. Iowa State, they were as high as number 2 in the country this season. Ole Miss just won going away, and Iowa State had a run. They're late, but still Ole Miss won.
Rob, let's talk about how do you follow us? Let's go.
Follow us on X at Rob Browne _ on YouTube and Facebook as well. Take a picture with your QR code. So, look, man, all the brackets are just – a lot of people's brackets are just – they're in the shredder. They're denying that they ever filled those things out. I know nothing. Sergeant Schultz, he didn't fill out a bracket. He won't admit it. But all I know is that I had a Final Four of Michigan State, Florida, Houston, and Alabama. And I had Florida to play Houston. Hope I'm wrong. Hope Auburn wins the whole thing, if I'm an Auburn guy. But wow. I think that the bottom line is those 4 teams are all still there. And I know it's been a while for Tom Izzo, 25 years since his last national championship. But it's been to 7 or 8 Final Fours. What a field we've got. And Tommy, from your perspective, being up in Charlotte, Franz is up in Raleigh this weekend. This tournament, how does it compare to previous tournaments? And every coach is now going. The portal opens Monday. Wow, I'm trying to get ready for the Sweet 16, and I got to have conversations with my team. You thinking about staying or what? How do you think that feels for a coach today?
Well, I think they're all right now. If they're still in the dance, I think they're just focused on the dance and trying to keep dancing. I think I'm sure all the coaches are keeping the kids focused on that. I'm sure the kids look, when you're in college basketball, let's face it, 96% of all the kids playing right now in this tournament are never going to play professional basketball. Maybe we'll put it at 80% because a lot of them go overseas and stuff like that if you want to count that in. But so this is it for them. I mean, this is like the creme de la creme of college basketball is being in the Sweet 16 and getting to trying to have a shot at winning national championship. So I think they're probably all focused on that and not so worried about the portal. But money talks. So I'm sure it's in the back of their mind. But it's been a great tournament. There's been a lot of really good, intense games. And it's interesting because I was looking at the bracket this morning, kind of as I do every morning. I spend my first hour of my morning always looking through the brackets and seeing how things are going or what's going on. And, like you said, Rob, the 1 seeds and everybody that's supposed to be kind of moving on are moving on. And it's interesting. So I think you're going to have a unbelievable, Elite 8, Sweet 16. I mean, all because it's going to be the number 1s versus the number 2s and the number 3. It's going to be amazing. So I'm looking forward to it.
Well, it is exciting, but you like to see upsets, but it was mainly single digits. I don't think the only one is Arkansas, isn't it? That's a double digit. And this is John Calipari's 15th or 16th Sweet 16. He's been here before, Franz. You were in Raleigh, Franz. You got to see it up close and personal. You and Danny Hurley go out and have a cocktail after the game. He's a nice guy.
Fran's got a lot of camera time. Yeah, I've seen you on the screen constantly. I'm not surprised.
He was ubiquitous yesterday. Ubiquitous.
You look great, by the way.
Danny Hurley is
Danny boy.
yeah, I like him. Goodness, you know why I like him? He reminds me of the coaches that I grew up writing about. I mean, I grew up writing about coaches that got pissed off.
Yeah.
I grew up writing about coaches that stomped chairs like Lefty. And
Well, Bobby Knight.
Yeah.
I grew up with coaches like Dean Smith asking me if he could bum a cigarette off me in private, things like that. I grew up with Al McGuire saying, John Wooden is nice. I'm obnoxious. I mean, this is, the game is supposed to be about the passion. We expect that out of the kids. We expect to see the kids fighting tooth and nail for every inch of that court, that diving for balls, etc. So why don't we expect the same thing out of our coaches? Why do we get pissed off when we see a coach
Love it
that has that kind of passion? And Todd Golden's the same way. You watch him on the sideline. I mean, he is a psychopath, but he knows what he's doing, and he makes good moves doing it. But I love the psychopath. I don't, God love Mike White. Mike's a good guy. He really is. But Mike would sit there on the sideline and go, Todd Golden sits there and he's going, I'm ripping my hair out. Get close to me, I'll rip yours out too. And this is what has ignited the passion in Florida basketball. I have never been on the road with Florida basketball and seen this many people there at the arena. Florida was absolutely loaded up with fans. The most I've ever seen. Florida, and I attribute that to one thing. Yes, the team is good, but the team's a reflection of the coach, and the coach is an absolute psychopath who can think. And I love it.
Well, and Tommy, talking about the passion of the coaches, you got to have that. And I know people are saying, well, that's not a good example for the young men. You know what? They think they hadn't seen that before.
Right.
Playing AAU basketball, playing with a coach that to me, I'd rather have a coach that's passionate like that than one that's apathetic. Tommy, watching, the one seeds from the SEC, Auburn and Florida, obviously they're still alive. What did you see out of Auburn, Alabama State, and then Auburn versus Creighton, especially the second half against Creighton? That guy, Greg McDermott, in his 15th year at Creighton, you know what I'm seeing a lot of? I love this from Auburn's fans. We need to schedule, they're saying, as Auburn fans, a home and home with Creighton. You need to be playing these national brands like what Memphis has done over the years with Gonzaga. Of course, they're already out of the tournament. Franz was right about Colorado State. But, Tommy, what'd you see from the Tigers? And we're going to kind of go one by one in the SEC. We got Florida, and now Bruce Pearl, he gets a little passionate.
You know what? I agree completely with Franz about the passion of coaches. I had the honor and pleasure of being a team manager for a couple of years for Coach Valvano. I mean, it doesn't get any more passionate than that, and screaming and yelling. And,
wow.
And, you got just all the Italian blood flowing through them at 100 miles an hour. But I tell you what, and I agree completely with Franz. And having a coach like that is so passionate, it's infectious. It's infectious for the whole team and everybody around it. Like, you have a fire in your belly when you go out on the court ready to play because of what the coach has instilled in you in practice and in the pregame talk and all like that. I mean, Coach Valvano was so great at making you think of things you wouldn't normally think of, like before you go out on a game, to put you in a mindset of like, okay, we got to go out and perform. We can't slack off at all. I mean, it would just be, and then when he's out there ranting and raving and sweating and pulling his jacket off and cussing at the refs in Italian and everything else, I mean, it was infectious, and I think that I love the passion of a coach. Now, on the flip side of that, I am also a big fan of like how they then, talk to their kids and how they treat their kids when they deal with the kids directly. And there's a lot of, as long as that passion is transformed into like a loving passion and a passion to want to get those kids to be the best they can be and to take care of them and know they got their back, then I'm all about it. To answer your question, though, go back to answer your Auburn. Auburn is just a good basketball team. Bruce Pearl can just flat out coach and get kids to play, and I just think that he does a great job with having them game ready every time. And I mean, Auburn's doing what Auburn should be doing. They're a really talented team. They got a couple of big time players on their squad. There'll be some first round draft picks probably, and they're winning, and that's what they should be doing. And I love watching Bruce Pearl coach. I always have. I think he's a great man. I've never met him personally. I know he's had some controversy here and there over the years, but I love his passion, and I think his players play like that.
I do too. And another one, watching Tennessee dismantle Saturday night, UCLA. Mick Cronin, youngest coach ever to reach 500 wins in his career. Tennessee, and you hear this a lot, don't underestimate what they can do. Rick Barnes has been around a long time. I think this is his 9th Sweet 16. Anything about Tennessee come to mind that makes you think they're going to get in the Final Four and win this whole thing?
Well, I'll tell you what, I think that Tennessee, I like Tennessee in the Midwest a lot, even though I think that the winner of the Tennessee-Kentucky game will be in the Final Four. I'm not sold on Houston. Houston is a typical Kelvin Sampson team. And like I've told you guys, ad nauseum, I was with his dad, Ned Sampson, when back in the day when Red Springs, every December, you got 10 Lumbees that are all about 5'3", and then all of a sudden, their cousins from Asheville would come, and there were 6'7", and suddenly Red Springs is a powerhouse.
Yeah.
Ed didn't pay those guys. No.
No.
Neither does Calvin. He never has paid guys. No. That's why every team he's ever coached has been on probation. But I don't like their offense against Tennessee's defense. Tennessee can play defense. They can play off. They're good offensively. Kentucky is really good offensively, and the defense now that Lamont Butler is back, they've got that guy that can really put the pressure on whoever has the basketball at the point. So I like those guys right there. And I like Alabama. I was up close and personal with Duke, and I think Duke is really, really good. I also think that with Grant Nelson in there, Alabama can win. They can't win without him, but they can win with him.
Yeah. Let me throw one in here. I saw something on SEC Network, Tommy, this morning, interviews with the Kentucky players saying, we're underdogs. A lot of us were not highly recruited. I didn't think I'd ever hear that from Kentucky basketball players. I mean, Mr. Krabs, let's get the world's smallest violin out. That's where we are in college basketball. Kane, Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, it's we talk about this every time I'm on the show. It's like with the transfer portal. Heck, you don't even know how half the players are every time you go pull up a roster. You got to figure out where they're from, who they played with. And, even like watched last night, it was so crazy watching Jeremy Roach play point guard for Baylor after being at Duke for so long. You're just kind of like, you're watching it and you're like, wait a minute, what? I mean, it's just a crazy world. But look, Tennessee, Kentucky, I mean, obviously know each other being in the SEC. Yeah. I have to disagree with Franz a little bit, though. I think Duke is a juggernaut. I think Duke is just going to roll. I mean, Alabama's got some good athletes, got some good, can score the basketball. They're good defensively, but man, Duke is just loaded. And I mean, you try to, shut down Cooper, and and it's like, Cooper Flag, and then all of a sudden you got all the other guys knocking down 7 out of 8 3-pointers. You got guys doing that. I mean, they're just loaded. But
Alabama doesn't play defense. It doesn't matter. Their defense is to make you run until you barf on the court.
Right. Right, and you're right. And I've watched Duke a lot this year, so I know more about them than anybody else. But I've just been, Duke is relentless. Like, their defense is good, and I know Alabama runs, but Duke is always. I've always said this about Duke. Even when Coach K was there, when we used to when I was still in school, we were playing against him. He was great at coming from the time the ball got tipped up defense was in your face with hands and bumping and tagging and whatever. So the referees, I think it was almost like a psychological thing for the referees. Like they just saw hard defense from the beginning. So they didn't call a lot because it was just like aggressive, hard defense, as opposed to like playing normal defense and then trying to pick it up in the end of the game to try to get a steal. Then they start calling it. But if they just played from the tip like that, there was never that much calls. And I think Duke just constantly does that. They're just in your face from the get-go.
Well, it was pretty cool to hear yesterday guys talking about John Shire 15 years ago was playing for Duke. And that I think Duke is they're obviously they're one of the top 4 seeds. We know that. But let's switch over to and it's interesting to me. UConn played Oklahoma and then they played Florida. And Oklahoma was not top half SEC. The Big East, I think they're typically one of the best conferences in America. So I'm gonna throw another one at you, Ole Miss guys. Were you surprised with what Chris Beard, and he isn't going anywhere? They've got a guard. What is he? 5'7"? Is it Monty Towell Jr.? I mean, it's amazing. That little guy he's from the Bronx. That's all I had to hear was he's from the Bronx.
He's tough.
He's tough. And I ain't got to worry about like Zakai Ziegler rode the subway or the train an hour and a half each way to school every day up in the Bronx, Tennessee's point guard. He's tough. Let's just go get some more guys like that. But, somebody tell me what you think Ole Miss can do, because they just dismantled Iowa State. I don't think people saw that one coming. Chris Beard made a statement yesterday, and I think he's going to recruit well off of that win.
Well, here's the thing about Ole Miss is Rob, I told you from the beginning that beware of Ole Miss.
Yeah, you did.
And particularly in that bracket, they are a good team. I wouldn't be at all. I wouldn't be surprised that if they beat Michigan State. I know everybody's going to think Michigan State is going to beat them, but Chris Beard is a really, really good coach at figuring out where he can attack you. He's a good defensive coach, like any coach who grew up in that Bob Knight system can be. But here's what makes him very good. He has an offensive mind that figures out, okay, this is where I'm going to attack you, and I'm going to beat you there until you figure out how to stop me. And then I got a plan B. Yeah. He's a really, really good coach at figuring that out. And I wouldn't be surprised if I think Michigan State's a really good team, but I don't think they've got Ole Miss type of quickness. I don't think I think Ole Miss can get them into situations that they are uncomfortable with.
Yeah.
And they've got shooters. My gosh, Padula, Padula is one of these guys, he's got like Walter Clayton mentality, which is like, if I'm in the same area code, I'm open and I'm shooting. And that's what makes him dangerous.
Well, Franz, you just mentioned Padula. Tommy, that's a Virginia Tech Hokie. I mean, who's transferred out. That just, the ACC can't keep losing guys like Padula. And I watched that guy play, and he's not big, but he's fearless. And so is the guy. They had, at the end of the game, did you notice Ole Miss had all their best ball handlers / free throw shooters on the court? They didn't have the bumble over there who, can't palm the ball. When you look at games at the end, honestly, there were 29.7 seconds left in the Florida UConn game. I stopped to go into Gibson's Donuts in Memphis to get my parents donuts. They love them. I go inside, get in line, come back out, and the game is still going on. And we're driving about 5 miles down Poplar Avenue in Memphis. There was still 3.2 seconds left. Tommy, remember the old commercial? How many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop? How long can a game go?
I mean, it is crazy, and it's all, but I love it. Like my favorite parts of the game are at the end when the strategy comes into play. And like, when do you foul? Who do you foul? How do you use your timeouts? do you have fouls to give? And if you're ahead as a coach, do you still go ahead and foul to stop the clock so that breaks up their plays? Like to me, I love the game, right? But to me, the strategy at the end of those games is great. And so, the longer they last, the better. For me, it's fine. It's funny. I saw something on social media the other day, and it was a joke thing. And somebody said, when your wife says, "Honey, I'll be ready in 5 minutes," that's like 5 minutes of basketball time. It's be about half an hour.
That's right. Trust me, we've got to leave for Atlanta tomorrow to go over there all week, and I'm Friday night. She goes, "You're going. I'm not." So I'm going with Billy Roberts. She goes, I can't take being at the Auburn game with you on that kind of a stage. And I said, okay. So we're going to take the MARTA and go downtown to State Farm Arena. Tommy, great description, and I'm with you. Franz, what I love about both of y'all, and Brendan, these graphics that he puts up throughout the show, I love this stuff because it shows you where we are. Franz, when you were in Raleigh, was there much?
I ate at Angus Barn.
Oh, there you go.
and the Capital City Chop House.
Oh, you're a steak man, huh?
Oh, gosh. I got to tell you what, the Angus Barn, I've eaten at steakhouses all over the country. And, the Mortons and all the Palm City or whatever they call it, the Palms. They can't touch the Angus Barn. I mean, for service, for the food, the steak comes out perfectly. And they always give you this waitress that sits there, and you want to just open up your wallet and say, just take however much. You're so nice. I mean, just, empty it if you need it. And that's just the way it is. But, here's the thing I discovered in Raleigh about the Florida Gators.
Yeah.
They are a team that it's kind of like, George Foreman would sit there and just kind of go like this, and you'd punch and punch and punch, and all of a sudden he'd sit there and go, "You through?" Boom, and you were gone. Yeah. And this is kind of like Florida was all of a sudden, this is a rock fight going on, and all of a sudden, they have a couple things happen. Will Richard hits a three, and all of a sudden it's like the Florida fans all of a sudden stand up, and they never sat down again from that moment on.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, Clayton hits a three. Then on the ensuing possession, they're pressing. Liam McNeely goes by, and Richard dupes him into going by, and then comes behind him, knocks the ball forward. Condon lob pass. He's like, boom, look like Ricky Pearsall catching a bomb, dribbling a dunk. And this is how Florida was. It was like all of a sudden, we've taken your best body blows. Now we're going to kick your tail. And they did. Those last 6 minutes were extraordinary.
Yeah, it really was. Tommy, I'll tell you another one. What Arkansas did, playing a 5 seed in Kansas Thursday. And then Saturday, I'm watching these games on apps and listening. I'm at the zoo with my grandson, so I'm at the Memphis Zoo. And by the way,
multitasking. You're multitasking.
By the way, there must be a zoo called Zoo Carolina in Raleigh or something because it got number 1 in the country. Memphis is number 2. But I had Arkansas to win, but to beat St. John's 75-66. Rick Pitino, I want to see that guy succeed. That's another guy. Nobody's perfect, but man, there's nothing like the Italians going up against each other. Like Doug Dean said, there was a big veal scallopini and a veal parmesan bet. Pitino's son Richard at New Mexico, they gave Michigan State all they could handle. But John Calipari, what he did, 0-5 start, ghosted locker room. He gets Boogie Flans back. Adu is out, and they're doing it. I think I agree with him. It's his favorite coaching job probably he's ever had. Agree or disagree?
I mean, I think it was an unbelievable job. And here's the thing about me. He's coached at so many high-profile schools where they expect to win and expect to be great. And Arkansas, he goes into Arkansas, is Arkansas really known for their basketball? Is it really like that much expectation? I'm sure they'd much rather win on the gridiron than they would on the hardwood, right? So, they've had some history, obviously, back in the day, but But, I think he went into a situation where anything that he really did on the positive side and really got them winning basketball was a good thing. And then all of a sudden, like you said, they started out terrible and they came and caught fire. And it was awesome watching those two coaches go at each other the other day. And it was a really good game. I think St. John's just ran out of gas, but Arkansas plays hard. They play like again, like we talked at the beginning of the program. They play with the same passion as their coach, right? I mean, he gets after it. He's a passionate guy. He's screaming and yelling, and he's got that passion in his belly, and his players played like it. And it was fun to watch. I mean, those are two Hall of Fame coaches going at each other, and you just really don't see that much any day. We've talked about this in the past too, where, back when we were growing up, every single ACC matchup was Hall of Fame coaches going at each other, right? You got Lefty Driesell going against Terry Holland, or Bobby Cremins going against Dean Smith. I mean, it was all like these iconic names that were just going to be in the history books forever. Yeah. So to see these two coaches going at it was awesome. I loved it. It was great.
Well, and here's the thing that the ACC has done. You brought up something important just then, Tommy. The ACC has lost iconic coaches, and they have you cannot replace greatness with mediocrity. Yeah. I mean, I think Kevin Keats is a nice guy. I don't think I think North Carolina State looked at this and said, we can't tolerate one good season out of 6, right. and they had to let him go. And now they get an NIL pioneer in Will Wade. I mean, people say he cheated. I say, no, he was just a pioneer for NIL. He was light years ahead of his time, and he's going to win. But you can't replace a Boeheim with a bad coach. No. You can't replace, Duke got lucky. I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, they got lucky because they got a guy with no head coaching experience who suddenly is proving that he's a good coach. Yeah. But Carolina, I mean, I love Hubert. Hubert can't coach. I'm telling you, folks, he cannot coach. And just, the problem is Carolina wanted so badly to stay in the Dean Smith lineage that they took this guy that can't do it. And now they're stuck with him. They've signed this guy through 2032.
Well, he's their basketball equivalent of what Mike Dubose was at Alabama football-wise. Dumbo. He was one of theirs, and they went and hired him. I want to say something about, I don't know if y'all saw and everybody watching the photographs by Chris Spears of Gatorbait Media. That is a phenomenal. That guy's talented. I mean, he was up there with you, Franz.
Yes, he was.
I love great photography, still shots. I'm an Ansel Adams guy, the old black and whites, and I watched my dad paint a portrait, 500 to 1,000 pictures he would take to get that one for the picture. But damn, that guy is talented. And, we don't hear too much about photographers in today's world. It's all about quick videos and all. But Chris Spears, you've got my respect. And wow.
Hey, I gotta tell you something. You're talking about photography. Yeah. And me being in Raleigh. Hats off to the photographer that has this picture in the media room. It's got David Thompson ripping down a rebound. Mark Moeller's over on one side. You see Owen Brown and Maryland in there, and you see John Lucas in there. Then you got all these pictures on press row. Guess who's there? I mean, I'm looking at, there's Joe Teedy, there's Colton Tudor, there's AJ Carr, there's David Lamb, there's Bill Millsap, and there with the long hair and the beard, there I am, and I'm sitting there saying, this is a talented photographer. This guy gets it,
I love it. Friends, see, Tommy, we're thinking about, and what makes me sick is to look on this list of the Sweet 16 and see Maryland there. It's just not right. Cole Fieldhouse, Maryland, I think, unfortunately, a lot of people remember about Maryland was the death of Lenny Bias in June of 1986 before the draft. But, man, I think about Gary Williams, but I really think about Lefty Driesell. I don't know anyone who ever ran into him at an airport or traveling that didn't say, Coach, give me a good foot stomp. I mean, we've lost also Jim Larinaga, Tony
Yeah.
Bennett at Virginia.
Well, that's all because of NIL deals and the
Yeah,
transfer
it
portal.
is.
They're sick of it.
They're sick of it. So that's
Yeah.
why I think the free market's going to correct this stuff. We can't go on like this forever, but we're a sanctuary show. We're going to talk about the games. I always kid around about that, but you can't help talk about that other stuff. Tommy, I want to ask you about Alabama. Franz talked about the defense. They like to get a shot off every 10 seconds in the transition. So their defense, like Franz alluded to, is to wear you down. Mark Sears, he can score 25, 30-plus points in a game. But they win 3 out of 5 when he does that. When he's in the 15 to 20 range and Grant Nelson's crashing the boards and Youngblood, they're a better team. They got to go up against Duke. You know Duke well. Franz does too. How do they attack them? And who that they've played in the SEC or period this year is a similar matchup on game day, which is most important?
Well, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. They still got a couple of games before they play each other, right? I mean, Alabama's
looking ahead.
Yeah. But Alabama's got BYU, and then Duke's got Arizona. I mean, on paper, of course, you'd say, okay, Duke and Alabama will move on. You would think so, but that's why they play the games.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, I don't know if anybody in the ACC gets up and down the court like Alabama. I mean, they just, I don't think anybody really has that kind of athleticism and just kind of like that gusto to say, let's just get it and go, right? Get it and go, get it and go. And Alabama does a great job of it. I haven't seen Duke play. Duke plays a very Duke style of basketball, like I say, gets up on you on defense, that kind of thing in the half court. Duke, I would be afraid to run with Duke. Like if Alabama is going to run, that means Duke's probably going to run too, because there's probably going to be a lot of quick turnovers, missed shots that are quick. Duke's going to get it and go the other way. I mean, you're talking about a team that's got 4, maybe 5 NBA players on their roster. Most and a good handful of them all going to be first round draft picks. I've watched Duke play a lot more, so I'm going to be a little more biased towards them. I've been impressed by Alabama, but I don't know. I think Duke can adapt to anything. I mean, I think if Alabama wants to run, Duke's going to run right there with them, and it's going to be a shootout. It's going to be a shootout.
Yeah, I think it will. And right, I'm looking ahead, but Arkansas, Franz has Texas Tech, and living in Memphis, I'm very familiar with that Hog tradition. To see Billy Richmond the third on the Arkansas team, and now you see Wagner, whose father Milt from Camden, New Jersey, played at Louisville. Juwan Wagner played for Cal at Memphis, and now you've got DJ Wagner playing at Arkansas. As Hank Jr. would say, family tradition.
Yes, it is.
Texas Tech, that's an underrated basketball program.
Yep.
I mean, I'll give you a little bit of trivia. From Altus, Oklahoma to Lubbock, Texas, there's more cotton grown in that sector than anywhere else in the world, except for, as a guy in my world history class at Auburn one time said, the Yangtze River Valley, the Yangtze River Valley. But Texas Tech, Chris Beard coached there under Bobby Knight. They played for the national championship in 2019 against Virginia. Mm-hmm. How does Arkansas match up with them? And Arkansas, everything seems to be coming together at the right time. And they've had the toughest road, beating a 5 and a 2 of any of the SEC teams. I don't think they're the best team, but they've proven it so far that they can play with anybody.
They don't match up with anybody, which is why they're so dangerous. Is that they don't match up with anybody. Nobody matches up with them either, because their secret's their secret really isn't a secret. Cal just got these guys believing that if they will get out there and defend and keep defending and really, really get in your face, that good things would happen. And good things have happened since they've done that. They were 0-5 in the SEC. To think that they went the rest of the way, they only lost 5 more games in the SEC the rest of the way. They went 8-5 the rest of the way in the SEC. That's not easy to do in this league, and they did it with 7 people. Now, Thiru is out. but they get Boogie Fland back. And again, they don't match up. They're too short in most places. They don't have any depth. They really don't have a great shooter on the team, but they got guys that suddenly come up there and say and go into shooters comas. Now, I don't know how that happens with them, other than Cal's got these guys believing that if you'll do what I tell you to do, you'll win a game. My gosh, that sounds like Dave Odom to me. You know, Dave Odom used to made a living telling guys with undersized, undervalued teams, telling them, if you'll just do what I tell you to do, you'll win.
Yeah,
and
I like that.
This is what he's doing there, and it's why they're so dangerous, because you can't really match up with them, because for one thing, they got, with the exception of Ivicevic, they've got 5 guys that are great ball handlers that they can put on the floor at any time. And that makes you dangerous.
All right, here's an interesting one, Tommy. Thinking of Winter Timber Outdoors, folks, it is turkey season right now. It's cranking up. Get your box calls, your slate calls, your diaphragm calls, your ground blinds, your turkey, the decoys. You get them out there. You got to have them. Gobbler likes them. Your turkey loads. Migra Ammunition makes the great copper-plated turkey loads. 1 shot, 1 kill. Go for the head. Turkey season. Get the right camo patterns and get it all. Winter Timber Outdoors, located in Athens, Alabama, but building a store in Auburn, growing in the footprint that is the SEC. Auburn's played, Tommy, of the 15 other teams in the Sweet 16. Auburn's played 9 of them, and they're 9-4 against those teams in the Sweet 16. They've 1-1 with Tennessee, 0-1 with Florida, 1-1 with Bama, and Duke beat them back December 4th or 6th at Cameron, 84-78. How do we think about Auburn's chances? They've got to play, obviously, Michigan. Trey Donaldson, point guard for Michigan from Tallahassee, was at Auburn for 2 years. Now he's at Michigan. How does this game catch you? Because Big Ten, pretty damn good basketball, but not the best that they've ever been.
No, yeah, I don't know much about Michigan other than a little bit I watched this past week of them. But like we talked about earlier, Auburn, I think they just play hard. They get after it, and I love Broome. I think he's arguably the second best player in the country behind Cooper Flagg. I mean, that's what everybody's kind of had him back to back for Player of the Year. I love seeing the big men in today's game, right? Everybody runs down the court and jacks up 3-pointers. I mean, let's just face it. That's all you see. You hardly ever see the big men go into the post. That's what made NC State's run last year so great. They'd feed the post to DJ Burns, and he would wheel and deal like nobody's ever seen, because they don't see post play anymore. You don't see a drop step baby hook, or you don't see an up and under, to get to the glass. You don't see that anymore. So when you talk about, Auburn, I mean, the inside play of Broome and I just love his tenacity on the rebounding. I mean, he's leading the league, I think, in all 3 categories: scoring, rebounding, and assists. I mean, he's just everything runs through him. I think he's the difference in the game. I don't think Michigan has anybody that can answer him.
Quick question, great analysis. I like this from David Luxack. Queen for Maryland straight up traveled on the game-winning shot. We hadn't even talked about that. He took at least 4 steps. LOL. I mean, hey, far be it from the officials to ever miss a call like a double dribble or whatever. But was that Pat Adams in the game?
Gosh, you gotta, I was. Let me put it this way: I was not impressed with the officiating in that ball game. I thought that they, I thought that some of these officials they get are really not very good. Let's just face it. We had Courtney Green as the number 2 official last night, and here's the thing: Courtney Green will miss calls, but then again, tell me an official who doesn't miss calls. Where his problem is he tries to do makeup calls.
Yeah,
and It's Ted Valentine has told me time and time again. He says, I go into every game knowing I might miss 4 or 5 calls that I should have made. But he said, I'm not going to complicate matters by trying to make it up at the other end. He says, you just have to block out it's kind of like being a hitter in baseball. If you're thinking about your last strikeout and trying to make up for it by hitting a home run, you're probably going to strike out again. What you got to do is you just got to say, okay, that's the past. I'm coming up there with a brand new mentality against this pitcher. And the same thing's got to be true with officials. You cannot try to make up, wrong plus wrong does not equal right.
Yeah.
So you just got to say, okay, I screwed it up. Boom, it's in the past. I'm going to focus on what's ahead. And Courtney Green did that all night. And it was ridiculous what went on in that ball game. I look at the Maryland game they had, Roger Ayers was in that game. And this is what kind of disappointed me was Roger could have made that call. But I think there's some kind of unwritten code that if it's in the last second, you don't want the game to end on a call like that or a foul or whatever like that. You want the game to end with somebody launching a shot and missing it. The other team grabs a rebound. That's what you want to end it. But I was disappointed that Roger Ayers missed that call. But stuff happens. I mean, tell me an official who has ever gone a game without missing a call, and I'll show you a guy that's in heaven calling basketball, up there. I'm sure they got it up there, but.
Yeah. Well, it is. Tommy, when you're down on the court, it's different. It's completely different. Everything's going fast, and you got to see it. And I like make-up calls, and we see it in football. Obviously, it evens out. So you can't let your players buy into, okay, we can blame the officials. You got to tell them, hey, we got 40 minutes to get the job done. Let's go do it.
Yeah. You just got to play through it. I mean, that's the bottom line. And because you're never going to – when's the last time you ever complained to a ref and he changed his mind?
It doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen. I mean, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And look, I get it. We talked about the passion earlier with coaches and the yelling at the players. And I do think like a good coach who can work the officials right and work them correctly kind of gets them thinking, okay, maybe I really did, am I blowing this or whatever, and maybe I need to make 1 or 2 up. And I'm sure subconsciously maybe it starts swaying the other way because their coach is riding them. But the players, like there's no reason to complain where you just play through it because you're never going to change their mind. And the last thing you want to do is in any way, shape, or form as a player embarrass a referee or make him look or make him feel like, that you're trying to belittle him on the court or whatever like that, because he's just going to come back and get you later with another, couple fouls because he's going to have it out for you. It's just human nature. But I don't know if it was a travel at the end of the game. It looked pretty like he's a big kid. He took some big steps. I'll give him credit. He's a freshman. That was a hell of a basketball play. It was. And it was a great shot. I mean, you just don't jumping off 1 foot, fading back, kissing it off the backboard with no time on the clock. I mean, it was a great moment. I mean, travel or no travel, whatever, but it was a great moment of the game.
All right. I want to ask y'all about the style of play. And hear it that some schools are really good at beating you with different styles and adjusting. Either you adjust on the fly during the first half, or then there's the coaches that are really good at adjusting at halftime. You better hope that's not too late. But what's a 25-point lead anymore? You're watching Ole Miss yesterday in the game against Iowa State. They're up by 25 or 26. And next thing you know, Iowa State makes a 20-2 run. Right. It reminds me a lot. Well, it's because of the 3-pointer. It reminds me, Franz, a lot of the NBA when I go to a Grizzlies game. Honestly, they don't really start until the fourth quarter. So, hopefully you don't buy too many of the $10 beers because you'll be broke. But
Frank DeFord wants to describe the NBA as this. First quarter, starters warm up. Second quarter, backups warm up for 8 minutes. Last 4 minutes, starters come back in the game. Yeah. Third quarter, half the starters warm up again. Fourth quarter, reserves warm up after the starters. Last 4 minutes, all hell breaks loose, and that was his description of the NBA. And in college basketball, because of the reliance on the 3-point shot, and I don't think the game's as good as it was. Just like as much as everybody loves dunks, it was a better game without it. It really and truly was. I was there in Memphis. In St. Louis when Bill Walton goes 21 out of 22.
I remember it like yesterday.
Never dunked the basketball.
Yeah.
Absolutely. David Thompson, all those alley-oops. And I was there. In 1974, I was there for every single one of them. And guess what? It was a better game. No 3-point shot. If they'd had a 3-point shot, Monty Tao would have held the record up at UVA when he hit 10 shots in a row. And he comes up there and comes down the court. And Norm Sloan says, if you miss one, you're coming out. Monty launches immediately, and this is from about 35 feet. It hits the backboard, hits the rim, does a victory lap, and then pops out. And Monty just runs over to the bench. The game's still going on, and sits down. And Norm has to call timeout because of that. It was just a more fun game to watch then. But here's the thing that the 3-point shot has done is it's taken a team with inferior talent that if you get guys into a shooter's coma, you can press and get a few turnovers, you can make up a lot of ground in a hurry.
Yeah.
But it's not as good a game, the same.
Well, it's like if you don't have a lot of size and great athletes, you can run the wishbone. The service academies do that. They have great athletes, but you can't be 6'6", 320. And it's in the military. It's
fit into a jet airplane cockpit with that.
We all remember Chad Jennings, the defensive tackle, who was 6'6", 275 for Air Force. He was a pilot, I believe, briefly. But, Tommy, what Franz is saying, everything when you watch basketball, it's Groundhog Day. It's kick it in, kick it out. And then you better get those rebounds out on the perimeter. That guy Padilla for Ole Miss, he's got like 8 siblings. And he goes, that's why I'm so competitive. You talk to any of my Catholic friends with 5 and 6 and 7 kids in the family, you had to be a competitor to eat.
That's right.
You were not late, I could promise you. But again, the 3-pointer came in I think 86. And when we watch women's basketball, that is a pure form of the game. It's obviously, I don't know if we've
played below the rim.
Played below the rim. We have had 1 or 2 women can dunk it, but it is fun to watch women's basketball for that very reason. And a purist doesn't mean that you are not advancing with the times. It's that you just appreciate the effort. And I love what you said about the coaches cussing each other in Italian, because I live in Memphis. I got a lot of my Italian friends. There's just nothing like that passion. I can't imagine how fun it would have been to be around Jim Valvano, but I also get the impression that he worked your ass off in everything that you did, because his legacy 42 years later, it's still, when you can't watch March Madness without invoking memories and images of that. There's just David Housel from Auburn running around trying to catch him for the post-game interviews, and he's hugging and kissing looking for somebody to hug. You can't make that stuff up. It's indelibly ingrained, imprinted in our feeble little brains, isn't it?
Well, Rob, indulge Tommy and me and let us both tell a V story, because we both have one. That's a good one. He was in Bucknell. He was the coach at Bucknell. They used to come down. He was there for about 3 years, and they would come down through Savannah, and he would stop and then play Armstrong State, go down to Florida, play a couple of games, and then come back up and play Savannah State on the flip-flop. Well, he comes in there to Savannah, he walks into the newsroom and says, I'm Jim Valvano. I'm the coach at Bucknell, and who's going to the Pirates house with me? Of course, we all raised our hands, and we said, Coach, the Pirates house is a tourist trap, he says. But then let's get trapped. I'm a tourist. So that night during the ball game, and he is absolutely a wild man. He was calm at North Carolina State compared to what he was at Bucknell. I mean, at Bucknell, he is a combination of Lefty Drizel, Al McGuire, and Norm Sloan, and any other insane coach you've ever seen. And he comes up there and he asks the official. He calls the official over. He says, "Can I get a technical foul for something I think?" And I'm sitting 10 feet away from him. He says, and the official says, "No, of course not." He said, "Well, I think you suck." He got a technical foul.
Yeah, that was the story I was going to tell. He pulled the same thing in NC State one time. He was just berating the referee up and down the court, and the ref teed him up and said, "Jim, if I hear one more word out of you, I'm going to tee you up again. You're going to be thrown out of here." And Coach V was like, he said, fine. Well, can I think what I want to think? He goes, "You think whatever you want." He said, "I think you blank and suck." And then, teed him up. And then you sit on the bench as a manager and everything else. At the time, I was still a manager before I played. And you just try not to laugh because it's but it was hilarious. he just had a way of bringing out the best in you. And from a strategy standpoint too, which was he was a brilliant basketball mind. He's a great motivator, or make you run through a brick wall blindfolded. He was, but he was a great tactician too on the cardwood. And I'll never forget, I believe it was 92. We had Chris Corciani, Rodney Monroe in our backcourt. We had a great team, Fire and Ice. Tom Gugliotta was on that team. Yeah. And we were going to play we were going to play, maybe it was 91. We were going to play Clemson, and they had Dale Davis and Eldon Campbell, the two twin towers underneath. And Clemson was really, really good. We come into practice the day before, and he was like, "All right, here's what we're going to do." Corciani, who's all of 6 foot, is short Italian guy, but a hell of a player. He's like, "You're going to guard Dale Davis." And Dale Davis, 6'11", right? He's crazy. He's like, one of the best players in the country. And coach was like, "What?" He goes, "You're just going to face guard him the whole time. All you're going to do is put your face in his chest like this and just put your hands up. And everywhere his chest goes, your face goes. You just run around and just be a gnat." And Corciani was like, "Okay, coach, but all right, fine." It worked like a charm. Dale Davis had 3 fouls on him in the first half because he was trying to get away from Corciani, pushing him, getting away, whatever. And he ended up fouling out of the game, and we won the game. It was just it was the most. And there's pictures of it somewhere you can find it. But Corciani's 6'1", Dale Davis 6'11", and Corciani's got his face in his chest like this the whole game. And it just was a tactic. Everybody was like, "Whoa, I've never seen anything like that," but it worked. And it was just the way his mind thought,
Yeah.
Well, I think what's cool is, and I was listening to some of the memories of that Villanova and Georgetown game in 1985, the shooting percentages Villanova had, and just it was 55, 54 or something like that. And then, you remember a guy named Michael Graham for Georgetown in 84? He was the greatest. He would mug you on the court. And you think about, and speaking of that, John Thompson, guys, I read a great story. He was incredible. I read a great story about him, about his philosophy on basketball and life. And, anyone who's that successful is going to be, quote, controversial. But do you know what he had on his desk? It was a deflated basketball. And it was to remind every player that he had that at some point, basketball is going to be over. Air is going to run out of the ball. And, you can make a living with your hands. You can make millions with your mind. So get your education. So, we're not, I don't know how many of the coaches today, I tell you what, I love hearing Calipari wax eloquently in the post-game press conferences because he's funny. And I used to see him a lot at Regents Morgan Keegan because Jimmy Sexton was his agent. So he'd be in and out of the building all the time. And Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant, remember them that played for the Bulls and all. It was pretty cool. But Calipari, I believe he's almost a daily celebrant at Mass. He's an interesting guy. He stayed at Kentucky too long, but man, I can tell you, Arkansas people, I think it's John Tyson that put a couple of million in there. When I was in Fayetteville in October, the Tyson influence is, let's just say it's underrated. There's a lot there. It's going to be fun to watch. I'm going to ask you all this. I know you got to go, Tommy. So I want you to close with your comments. And Franz, stay with us if you can, and we'll come back for a few more minutes. But Tommy, this has been so much damn fun. It's kind of like that ESPN 30 for 30 when the NC State guys, Terry Gannon, your friend, and everybody get together, Wittenberg and Lowe and all those guys. This is what I love about basketball is it's these memories of all these great coaches, and we've got to save that for the future of basketball to be as healthy as it's past.
Well, I agree with you 100%, Rob. And I think one of the things, unfortunately for me, is, and Franz obviously has been doing this a lot longer than I have and has a fantastic memory with all his history.
It's incredible.
But it really is, which is a blessing, and it's amazing. It's going to get harder and harder to have these memories of the current day because the players don't resonate with the schools. No. You know what I mean? Like, you talk loyalty. About, you just said Thurl Bailey, Derek Wittenberg, Sidney Lowe, Terry Gannon. Like, you can remember those four guys because they were all iconic with NC State and played there had great runs, had a great, history. Granted, they did one of the greatest, runs through the tournament of all time. But we won't have the same memories going forward. Because of the players in the transfer portal, and there's no allegiance to the schools, and so you're not going to be like, who was that guy that hit the shot for Maryland in 2005? What was his name? Because this time next year he might be playing for Kentucky, and then the year after that he might be going to to the NBA. So it's just we love the game, but I love the history. I love the as Franz does too, and I know you do too, Rob. But that's what I love about the game, and I think that's going to be tainted going forward.
I remember every player for Maryland and North Carolina State in the '74 ACC championship game.
Greatest game ever played.
Oh, absolutely. 103 to 100 in overtime. Both teams shot 60%. There was not a single walking call, not a single charging foul.
And no 3-pointers, Franz. No 3-pointers.
No 3-pointers. Both teams combined for fewer than 10 turnovers.
Yeah.
Best coached game, best played game there was. These guys, and you want to know something that's cool about it? These guys from both teams have so much love and respect for each other.
100%.
And it's like when Owen Brown died. The late Owen Brown, what a great player he was. And when Owen Brown died, the North Carolina State people grieved over that. But it was a different ball game, and it was a different mentality because there was a camaraderie. You don't go have rent a player. You don't. You got guys that are with you, and you used to come to school. Dean Smith had one of the greatest things ever going. He said, okay, if you leave early for the NBA, you only get half your money, and you're going to sign a deal with it. You're going to go with the agent I tell you to go with, and you're only going to get half your money till you get your degree. Michael Jordan came back and got his degree in no time at all. I mean, he came in the offseason of his first NBA year and absolutely overloaded on courses so he could get his degree. And Worthy did the same thing. Mm-hmm. You had coaches that invested in their players, and their players trusted the coaches enough to say, okay, coach, you got me. I got your back. You got mine.
Yeah.
That's long gone.
Yeah, well, we got to hope. I'm all about, and our motto, thank you, Maury Gaston, history, traditions, and heroes. And you know what? I think the more that you teach these young people, if you'll invest time in them, they will understand it, but you can't care more than they care. I think that's where we are at across. I cannot think of where I went to high school, Christian Brothers High School, Brother Joel I mean, the guy, now my son-in-law will start working for Christian Brothers High School. And he goes, guess where my office is? Across the hall. There's 2 offices in this section from Brother Joel. He taught me. He taught my son-in-law. He taught my son-in-law's father. I mean, you these people, and those Christian Brothers, by the way, make like $1 a day. They ain't in it for the money. They're in it to make you better people. Tommy, you are just welcome on here anytime. I was the dumbest thing I did was thinking, we're so heavy SEC, but SEC and ACC, you can't talk about family without talking about your cousins. And y'all are our first cousins in the ACC, but you are phenomenal having you on here. What a treat. We're going to do it again next week if you'll come back and join us. But
anytime.
Let them know how they can follow
basketball. You. I don't care what conference you're in or whatever. I just love good basketball. I love seeing.
It's like good food.
I mean, I just love it. And this time of the year is by far and away my favorite. I mean, there's just between this, the spring training starting up, the Masters coming around the corner, the spring weather, and it's all good. It's great.
And the only problem, Tommy, is we only have 2 more weekends of it.
That's exactly right, friends. I was telling my buddy the other day.
You got to pack all your love and compartmentalize it into 3 weekends, and then all of a sudden it's gone. And it's
gone. And you know what else? Not to sound like, but like you go through these first couple of weekends, and it's like game after game after game after game for 3 or 4 games going on at the same time. It's like you're switching channels. It's the greatest thing ever. And all of a sudden you come down and you whittle it down. You're like, you got 2 games on Saturday, you got 2 games on Sunday, and that's it. And you're like, I need more basketball.
Well, and it's so much. I think what it is basketball is so personal because it's not as big, and you're just intimately right there on top of the players and the coaches and all, and you see a lot of things you can't see in a football game. Tommy, let people know how they can follow you. You also have a great production company where you do a lot of great documentary work. And Tommy's been an actor in a few movies. He's been the reporter asking a lot of questions. But thanks again, and we'll do it again next week.
He gets that. I got a face made for radio.
Well, you got a brain and a memory made for the Smithsonian. I can tell you that much.
Right.
All your memories. Yeah, it's awesome. Thank you guys for having me on. But you can follow me on. I'm on Instagram at TommyKane_talent, and then I have my production company's Pack 30 Productions, based out of Charlotte. We do everything from corporate videos to commercials to documentary work to work a lot of still trying to do some work with the ACC network, things like that. So got a lot of stuff going on. But thanks for having me on, Rob.
Get James Bates. Get James Bates on and go in and do a documentary of him with his artwork. I don't know if you're familiar with his artwork, but James Bates, All-American linebacker at Florida, and one of the goofiest human beings that God has ever put on this planet. And when I mean goofy, if you don't believe that, go onto YouTube and look up Luther Ogle from who is supposedly a Tennessee fan, and he put on his wife's dungaree shorts, blue jean shorts that are short shorts. He put them on and wears them when he's doing Luther.
God. Tommy, be careful. And next week, tell us about Will Wade's press conference. Take care.
All right, guys. See you, man.
You bet. Let me say something real quick about a couple of our sponsors. Landers Ford, Memphis.com, located at Poplar and Houston Levy, right on the edge, Memphis, Collierville. They're open every day of the week except Sunday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And when you're going to buy a new car, or truck, or SUV, it's nerve-wracking. Ask for Brad Bellamy, the general manager. That's where you start at Landers. They're great people to work with. They'll help you out, work with you on the credit, on your payments. And it's all about, we talk about matchups on this show. It's all about the matchup on the day of the sale. A lot of people tell you Monday's the best day of the week to buy a new car. Get out there to Landers today. They are the number one Ford dealership in the Mid-South for a lot of reasons. More than anything else, it's the people and the way they treat their customers. LandersFordMemphis.com. Proud to have them as a sponsor. And they're right down the street from Hewlett and Dunn, boot and clothing company on the historic square. Get out there now. It's changing from winter to spring. They got a 50% off sale with Duck Camp, Filson, Barber. Oh my God. STS, Pendleton, Schaefer, those Rock Mount shirts, over 7,000 pairs of men's and women's boots. Get out there. They also, Jimmy Calhoun, I had him take some boots out there to Hewlett and Dunn to get them restored. He texted me late last night and said they're better than they were when I got them. They can do magic. Hewlett and Dunn, Charles Hall, the owner, his wife Laura, can't find better people. J.M. Huffman, Raven Carpenter, Lydia, Squidward, the whole crew. They're great people to work with. All of our sponsors, like Matei's Garage, like Chris Aiken and Web Footed Kennels, My Town Roofing. Find them all at sidelines.live. Friends, I'll tell you what, this is one of the coolest shows because you're right. It's going to be over, and in the last few minutes we'll talk about it. It'll be over Monday night, April 7th, late Monday night when the national championship game is played. But what we love about basketball, and I'm trying to keep from sneezing, is these memories. And, what I hope the tide will turn, but what's got everybody interested is all these storylines. And it's just been, an incredible season. What's I think makes you the proudest in the SEC is 14 teams got in. You've now got 7 of the Sweet 16. Remember, the ACC had 6 in 2016. So we're charting history. So I'll just close off, Franz. Check out Buddy Martin's show tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern on this channel. Scarbo Knows, AU Undercover, Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern. This is awesome. Most often, we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Franz, we're the most blessed people in the history of the world.
You got it.
Have a safe trip to San Francisco. Don't leave your heart out there.
What I got to do is the first thing I got to do is I got to get back into the Orlando airport. So,
right. All right, Franz, be careful, man. This was awesome. Thank you for executive producer Brendan Martin. Can't get any better. We'll see you tomorrow.